Your thoughts on the Sweet Baby Ink drama? Okay, people have been asking me about this for like 2 weeks now. I'm gonna find out. Okay, thank you, Reddit. This is exactly what I want. From r/out of the loop. Now I can finally find out what's going on with the Sweet Baby Ink controversy. Gamergate 2. Sweet Baby is a story writing company hired to supplement video game studios' writing staff. The idea is a studio can hire them to flesh out a game's script and storyline. I feel like you should be doing that in-house, but okay. The company is transparent about their goals of approaching writing with a focus on representation in marginalized groups. For a growing number of players, this is a dog whistle for the unwanted insertion of political ideologies or other topics they aren't interested in. In other words, a distraction for what really matters, making a good game. You can easily find examples of these sorts of people on social media. Many releases such as Suicide Squad have had Sweet Baby credited as part of the writing staff. These games have been a major disappointment for many players. A Sweet Baby credit is now being thought of like leprosy, an indicator of games to avoid. The company has been an easy scapegoat of growing dissatisfaction with major releases. That same dissatisfaction with major studios has led to the success of games like Baldur's Gate 3 and Pal World, and now Helldivers 2, as players are starting to explore other studios who are taking different approach to their games. It's come to my attention Suicide Squad is the only notable game Sweet Baby was involved with to be considered a critical disappointment. Okay, that's it? They do consultancy, not writing? Well, I'm glad they weren't involved in Baldur's Gate 3, or we might have seen some woke shit, like gay people in it, you know? There's a wiki section we're saved. Wiki? I love wiki. That's where I get all my knowledge from. In October 2023, Hamas attacked. Wait. Sweet Baby attracted negative attention on Kiwi farms. The group listing Steam Baby's work, encouraging players to avoid the game as the studio promoted a woke agenda. Okay, so is this just like literally just a witch hunt thing? Like, Gamergate didn't do anything and all the good games these days are packed full of homosexuals, so now they're like, oh, well, actually, you know, the only way for us to... What have they worked on? Okay, Dungeons & Dragons Dark Alliance, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Sable, Gotham Knights, God of War Ragnarok. Alan Wake 2? Wait. How bad can these guys be? Alan Wake 2 was, like, really good. Hyper Light Breaker. Wait, didn't that already come out? What am I thinking of? Hyper Light Drifter is what I'm thinking. Is this a sequel? Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, Marvel Spider-Man 2, Goodbye Volcano High. Did I see that on Steam? It's just DEI Gamergate shit. Yeah, it feels like there's nothing interesting here. If all they're done, if all they have, if they're only just listed for consultancy or whatever, there's not even any way to attribute any writing to them in particular. Like, oh, Alan Wake 2, did they contribute the woke part of Alan Wake 2, where there's a black woman, or the good part of Alan Wake 2, which is the entire game, including the part with the black woman? Like, what? Like, oh, man, can't wait to boycott God of War Ragnarok, you know, like, I bet narrative and character consultation. I bet they included a part where Kratos did something woke, like grow as a person and be more compassionate. That wasn't in the last God of War game. Like, what I can't even do anything with this. People keep saying over and over, you know, like, cover the Sweet Baby Ink. What am I supposed to cover here? Do you think DEI is praxis? It's not a real thing. Diversity, equity, inclusion is just a corporate buzzword that describes an incredibly vague, wide, and often not actually practiced set of so-called progressive principles. It's not, this is literally like saying you oppose, I don't know, like political correctness. What the f do you mean by that? Like, it doesn't, be more specific. What specific elements of this are we arguing against, you know? There are literally DEI director jobs. Yeah, and I'm telling you that word doesn't mean anything. There are consultants' jobs who their job means nothing. You know, oh, I'm corporate inclusivity and wellness, holistic health and yoga instruction consultancy firm. Thank you. Like, what does that mean? I don't know, but they get paid $200,000 a year. If you don't like it, blame capitalism. Okay, sorry. Like, I didn't hire these people. You know, I don't understand what the issue is here. Like, people, it's like, oh, they made Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League woke. Script writing, audio logs, non-player characters. So were they the ones who decided to put this in the same universe as the Arkham games? Like, because that's what everyone was upset about. Like, did they choose that? Like, oh, consultancy firm, Sweet Baby Inc., can you please tell us whether or not we're going to set this game in the same universe as the Arkham Asylum games? Are you gonna? Oh, sure. Okay, yeah. Can you react to Asmonvitz in the Seas Maulding? No, Asmongold's a idiot. I've gone over a video of his. He has no idea what he's talking about. Like, he doesn't even understand the positions that he has. He just watches other stupid people and then, like, agrees with them. It's not, like, his videos on these subjects aren't even him presenting a coherent argument. He just watches other YouTubers and talks every, like, 30 seconds saying, like, yeah, man. It's nothing. There's nothing to engage with. I'm sorry. Good games these days are all made by homosexuals. That's not because of an artificial effort to, push homosexuality in games. It's just they're better people. I say, are consultants cancer for corporations? Well, corporations tend to be cancer themselves, so it's kind of, whatever. Blind leading the blind. Yeah, if there was no Anita Sarkeesian, we would need to invent one. Sweet Baby Inc. is just corporate Anita Sarkeesian. There is a piece of realish drama. There is a Steam group that lists games which Sweet Baby Inc. has worked on. Some Sweet Baby Inc. employees signal boosted that TOS stuff is being said in the group. Gamergaters are saying these are false claims of harassment, trying to make it a scandal. Well, yeah, that also happened in Gamergate. Like, Gamergate, a bunch of the people who participated in that online, like, it was just a harassment mob, death threats, doxing, everything. And then whenever people who were being threatened by it would point it out, the people who were fronting the whole thing would say, oh, look at you, like making up / singling out this bad behavior as a way to denigrate all of us. That's very snakish of you. And they would just double down on it. It's a harassment mob. I don't think Sweet Baby Inc. is going to benefit very much from directly pointing it out, but it also kind of seems like they've got it made. Like, another important thing to point out here is that Gamergate lost. Like, it was the Gamergate had all the momentum in the world behind it back in YouTube, and it did nothing. It changed nothing. It didn't even lead to a pushback in gaming cultures. Gaming studios certainly didn't, like, after 2014 or 15, get more reactionary. The opposite has happened. If anything, gaming studios are pretty disproportionately progressive, largely because of the communities they pull from for their hiring, I imagine. Also because gaming as a medium tends to target younger people, and younger people tend to be more progressive. So, there's a lot of that. But like Gamergate didn't do anything. It didn't get any like journalistic concessions offered by, Games Journalist Corporation or whatever else. It's totally worthless. Waste of time. So what is this then? I mean, look at the people they're working with. Insomniac Games? Like, I don't know. Hassan actually had a surprisingly decent video in this. It's just people identifying all the issues with corporatism / capitalism and drawing the wrong conclusions. See, I don't know if I actually believe that. I think there are some people who might fall into that, but if you're joining a Kiwi Farms group or Discord server, hatefully fixating on every game a company has ever worked on because one game they worked on was disliked and also they're progressive, I don't think there isn't really like a pretense anymore. It was easier back in the Gamergate days to get more apolitical people involved because they could take advantage of the kind of general distrust of feminism to get a lot of people on board who didn't have very well set reactionary positions. I mean, back in the earlier Gamergate days, people who today are pretty open white nationalists, like Sargon of Akkad, would literally pretend to be liberal egalitarians, claiming they support equal rights for women or different racial groups or whatever, because the community back then, they were pulling from a wider tent. But if you're engaging in a harassment crusade from like a Discord group made to do this now in the environment today, I feel like it's just obviously right-wing bullshit. You can't look at it and like pretend there's some kind of apolitical but my ethics in game journalism's bullshit. It's not like young apolitical people are getting radicalized on DEI as a concept. If anything, that's more of like a broader Republican thing. For younger people, it's more like the Andrew Tate incel manosphere kind of stuff that usually serves to pull people in when they might not generally agree with the politics being expressed. This is just bleh. They're also JQing because venture capitalists are tied to Sweet Baby Inc. Well, again, like it's a transparently right-wing movement. It must be really difficult being a reactionary gamer and seeing that pretty much across the board, with very few exceptions, the entire space has raced ahead of you in terms of being progressive, you know? Like, massively so. Far more so than television or movies or whatever else. Video game communities are just very progressive leaning. Pronouns. Yeah. It must suck so much to have, you know, to see gaming fall to progressivism and just have it not affect you in any way, shape, or form whatsoever. Must, if anything, heighten the frustration. Vosh, they don't think Helldivers is satire. They're too dumb for any self-reflection. I disagree. I think that a lot of them understand that Helldivers is satire. They're just trying to own it. The idea, they're doing the same thing that, like, 14-year-olds who worship Stalin do on Twitter, where they'll see some, like, liberal-made, you know, like, black book of communism or whatever bullshit, and they'll go like, oh, 50 trillion Stalin people killed by Stalin, you know, haha, that's my boy. They understand they're engaging with satire, or at least something critical, but they're trying to embrace it as a way of showing that they endorse the ideology so much that they're willing to endorse even its like hyperbolic, overstated version. It's not just an inability to recognize satire. It's also just, if you overly commit to the bit, it's a way of kind of overcoming the, you know, it's basically like the Virgin, wow, you're so fascist that you think even this is okay, showing, you know, Starship Troopers material, and then they with the Chad yes, because they don't have a real ideology. Those people just cope and manage to convince themselves or whatever they want to believe, i.e. conservatives coping that One Piece isn't political. Again, I don't think many people actually believe this. First of all, like, by conservatives, I assume you mean more reactionary anime fans. They understand that One Piece is political and pro-trans. I just think a lot of them don't like that fact, so they pretend that its political elements are innocuous or irrelevant, you know? There's no actual way. They're literally like reading through One Piece, and it's a big story about like government conquest and law and oppression and inequality, and then they've got multiple positively received trans characters. There's no way they see all of that and think it's nothing. They're fighting back against something that conservatives have been losing for decades now, which is all culture. They can't hold on to it, because conservatives don't actually like art or care very much about its production. They just want to look at art and see a reflection of themselves and their biases. The Irish referendums failed. The Irish government on Saturday conceded defeat in twin referendums to change the constitution, a stinging rebuke for the ruling coalition as it sought to update language on the role of women. Maybe it was just too, like, irrelevant? I can kind of see that, because those two referendums were about like very minor language changes. So people who are in favor of women's rights aren't going to be that motivated to go out there because it is quite minor. But then all the like reactionaries are going to be, because they oppose any change by default. They're going to be much more strongly motivated. I guess I can see that. Well, little ventured, little gained, whatever else. Froglegs, I'm not saying that DEI policies don't exist. I'm saying that it's a broad, vague, nebulous, and poorly enforced set of positions and practices. Like, what DEI, what does that even mean? Like, I understand what the words mean, and I understand what tends to be done as a part of DEI, but in practice, what does it mean? Well, nothing specific. It's usually just like some vague corporate policies that, and a lot of them don't even get followed through on, you know? It's when you woke wokely. True. Having a DEI policy means having a box checked for a presentation that you make to investors or prospective investors. In practice, that is usually what it is. Usually when corporations proudly take some progressive stance when it comes to their hiring or their internal policy, it has more to do with appearing hip and fresh to the investors than it does any actual, like, come on. How many of you have worked shit jobs at shit companies where the corporate messaging is all about inclusivity, diversity, we're all one big family, and it's just another shit job? Like, seriously, anybody who takes the existence of a DEI attitude at a corporation as some kind of like supreme political indicator of their bias has never seen any previous example of how corporations talk about themselves. A DEI office can have real practical benefits. Stop saying DEI. What, it doesn't mean anything. What does the office do? It's very easy for companies to work on autopilot and just design products for people like themselves. Having someone specifically tasked with considering the larger picture is worthwhile and profitable. That's not DEI. That's like very basic market research. I don't even think that's like a DEI thing necessarily.